Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 316th ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the MSP studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron.
We're going to get right to it. Missouri lost. Kyle, Missouri lost. Subscribe, review, support. Missouri lost. Not only did they lose, they got embarrassed. Dismantled. Dare I say exposed.
I don't think you've ever interrupted me like that before.
No.
Desperate times.
Yeah.
Call for desperate measures. We got a little bit of a wake up call last weekend, and it was not fun.
I feel
More
like
a nightmare, maybe.
Exposed is like feels like the correct word right now. But at the same time, one thing that Coach Drinkwitz said in the press conference afterwards is he said something like, the season starts now. Like after your first loss, then you got to really figure out what you're made of. Something like that, right?
Sure.
And I can kind of see that to some extent. But I just don't know how in the world we're supposed to learn anything from this loss. Because, the final score was 41-10. Somehow it felt even worse than that. And, after the first quarter, it was over.
Yeah.
I think actually the first quarter ended 10-0, but still they scored the next touchdown with like 10 seconds into the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while since a game has been over that quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it was reminiscent of Kansas State from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It was completely helpless. And I would argue that it really, really felt over after Luther Burden's 70-yard touchdown got called back.
Yeah.
I guess we can just hop right into it here, but it felt like that was the point of no return because we had already kind of withstood a couple of unfortunate circumstances, and that right off the bat, the game starts. Missouri gets the ball first. They are driving down the field. They come out swinging a little bit. The first play of the game is a 30-yard pass to Luther Burden. Beautiful kind of a backside shoulder throw to the sideline. Okay, this is exactly what we wanted to see.
Yes,
they're coming. They're doing exactly what we talked about that they should be doing. They're using play action. They're letting their playmakers make a play. It's okay. So they were cooking on that first drive. Gets to that fourth down play. They decide to be aggressive. Take a shot for Theo Weiss. Obvious pass interference called. They throw the flag, pick it back up, which felt like pure insanity in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think everybody kind of felt that. And even the TV crew, the rules analyst, whatever, whoever was talking on the TV broadcast was I think they're going to regret picking that back up.
Yeah. I watched that in the highlights several times, trying to hear exactly what the ref said when he announced no penalty. And I couldn't ever quite make it out. But the announcers were talking about them throwing the flag for holding, defensive holding, closer to the line of scrimmage on that same defender potentially, but who knows? Everybody's looking at that contact with Theo Weiss where the ball ended up. Mm-hmm. So I don't even know if that defender is who they threw the flag on originally.
I think some people were maybe trying to make the argument that, or maybe the refs were saying that the pass was uncatchable. And I'm it's uncatchable because you're shoving him the opposite direction of where the ball is.
Yeah, when the defender is completely turned around backwards, not looking for the ball, and makes contact with the receiver, preventing him from getting back to the ball, that's supposed to be a flag every time.
Exactly. So that felt like right off the bat, just this huge momentum killer. And of course, A&M just immediately goes down and scores. They've got Wigman in there, who I'm not sure Missouri prepared for at all.
It didn't seem like it.
We'll probably get into that, but. And so then immediately it's okay, this is what we're up against. Wigman looks like he is locked in. We've got to overcome, getting the ball first in the game and not doing anything with it. Mm-hmm. Luther Burden, 70-yard touchdown pass, gets called back. He's melting down on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I think that was the moment where I knew we're not getting back into this game, because you could just see like his body language was awful. And like and everybody looked so dejected.
Yeah. But there was one clip where the broadcast was showing Cook and Burden like watching the iPad, like watching that playback, and just them sort of, you could almost see it in real time. It like the life left them, seeing that they call where they called the penalty there, which I mean technically I think was the correct call. Like you can't be 3 yards away from the neutral zone,
right,
until the ball passes the neutral zone. So they got Membu for that. But man, I mean, had
So
nothing to
brutal.
do with the play. He was like on the line 3 yards away.
Yeah, I think a lot of refs probably would have let that go. And yeah, I'm not even really arguing with the call on that one. It's just like whatever.
Yeah.
Objectively, if that was the rule, that's the rule. It was really just the complete lack of response, and really the way they reacted to that play was like really concerning. Yeah. And I think I had a really bad feeling after that play happened. And I think ultimately like that kind of defined the entire game. It's like, I don't think this is a talent issue. And, I think Missouri's going to have the chance to, prove me right or wrong on that in the next few games. But I don't think this was not a result of a talent issue. This was their complete lack of resolve to what was happening. And to some degree, I don't really totally blame him.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels like if that flag hadn't been picked up, and they even kick a field goal on that drive, then the reaction to that touchdown being called back is probably not quite as extreme.
Exactly.
But that just felt like the second one that just like completely like take the wind out of your sails is like an understatement.
Yeah.
At least if you're gauging their reaction on the sidelines.
Yeah. And I think even maybe that same drive, it was when Brady missed Theo Weiss on a play that looked like it might have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have all these really deflating things that happen all at the same time. They didn't respond at all.
And offensively, starting out slow is something we're used to. And you could sometimes be like, well, let's give the defense a chance to get us back in this game. Defense make a big play. And we had already seen Wigman dice up the defense a couple times.
Yeah.
So like that one drive ended in a field goal, but that felt like, okay, the defense answered a little bit here, held them to a field goal.
Yeah.
That gets called back. They score another touchdown to go up 17-0.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, okay, the defense had to do something there. They didn't. Offense never does anything. Both sides of the ball just disappear.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% Missouri's defense did not give them the chance to get back in the game either. Right. So that was also like X's and O's wise, that was the biggest issue of the day was the defense looking completely uncharacteristic of themselves.
Yeah, and that makes you like, oh, you want to talk about the bad calls in the first quarter? Well, you still gave up 41 points.
Right.
So, like obviously that changes the trajectory of the whole game when a touchdown gets called back like that. But
it does feel like a little bit of a strong statement to say that they gave up.
Yeah.
But I think I'd be willing to say that, at least after a certain point, I think they gave up. And, I'd like to see that alternate timeline where on the very first drive of the game, that defensive pass interference call stands.
Yeah.
We score a touchdown there or even a field goal, like you said. I would love to see what happens in that timeline. And maybe Missouri just gets boat raced again. I don't know. But I think that the compounding effects of those deflating events would have been a lot less.
Yeah, talking about Wigman and his game, like obviously we did not think he was going to start. It seems like Missouri didn't either.
Yeah, we didn't even really talk about him much last week in our preview. No. I think,
and there was honestly he had barely played so far this year.
Yeah,
and but he goes out and is 18 of 22 passing for 276. That's good for 12 and a half yards per attempt. And I just felt like I was hearing Coach Drinkwitz in the back of my mind talk about Brady Cook being efficient. I think maybe it was after the Buffalo game, after the Boston College game, when on the show we were like, that you said he was efficient, but like 7 yards per attempt, not really. I don't know what you're looking at there.
Completion percentage.
No, and Wigman showed exactly what an efficient outing is like for a quarterback, and
100%.
It didn't matter. I was trying to like diagnose it a little bit. Missouri played some man with like one safety over the top. They were playing zone. It did not matter.
Yeah.
I think maybe the zone looked worse because I don't know. I mean, A&M's offense was just doing whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
They were hitting their, like little swing pass out of the backfield, running back just going and sitting down in the zone.
They were making contested catches. Even whenever
Yes.
they were well covered, they were making really difficult catches look easy.
And that seems like it was something that changed in Missouri's offense was they started, like you said, they started the game doing exactly what we were begging for, which is Brady, just throw it up to your guy and let him go make a play. Maybe you'll get a penalty. Doing that in the first quarter, and then you keep watching, and what do you see? Brady Cook tucking the ball and rolling out to nothing, and never even giving the receiver a chance. Over and over again.
Yeah,
it was just.
Yeah, it felt like without really, obviously from an outsider's perspective, it really felt like they were not prepared for Wigman to play.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different quarterbacks. Wigman and Marcel Reed,
Yeah.
Complete polar opposite style. And the way they were defending Wigman, it was almost like the defensive line was like playing contain. They were not getting any pass rush at all. They didn't blitz very much.
No.
And when they did, it wasn't effective. And I mean, it was like Wigman had all day to throw. And that was a huge reason why I think he was totally dicing us up, was he just was not worried about the pass rush at any point in that game.
Yeah, he wasn't worried about the pass rush, and he just seemed also totally content to just throw it to the first guy he's supposed to, like most plays. He wasn't even having to like dissect anything or like work through his progressions all that much. He just knew where to go. He knew who was going to be open. I saw one play in particular when I was watching the highlights just a little bit ago where I think it was maybe Charleston comes on a blitz and Wigman looks right at the receiver that Charleston was lined up over and just throws it right where Charleston came from for a first down. And
Just
I don't know.
diagnosed it like pre-play almost.
I don't know how he could have, but that's what it looked like. Yeah. He just saw it quick enough, or that was the first read, just got unlucky. But
yeah, that's what quick processing looks like in a pocket quarterback for sure, in a pocket passer.
So, we were basically pretending like he didn't exist in our preview of the game, and now I think he's basically our father. So, Daddy Wigman showing us how to play efficient QB play in the SEC.
Nobody forced you to say that, and
No.
you did it anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to get ahead of the narrative on that.
A&M's legit like a playoff contender at this point.
Yeah.
In the season,
3-0 in the SEC.
Yeah.
It was 24-0 at halftime, Kyle. If you thought they could make any halftime adjustments, A&M came out and Le'Veon Moss took the very first play, like 75 yards to the house.
Like biggest hole I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like
that's saying something.
Yeah. Like there was like 8 feet of space.
Yeah.
That he could have run through there.
I talk a lot. I over the years, I've lamented, the less than ideal commentary teams that Mizzou gets stuck with sometimes on SEC Network or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it was like extra painful
Yes.
to hear Joe Tessitore fired up on the mic in the worst way possible. Like he's good.
He is.
And he was very excited for some big plays that A&M made, and it was brutal.
I mean, it really does. When I heard Missouri was playing this game on ABC, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like, man, historically, we just do not show up for games that matter. And I know last year was the outlier there, and that's why it was a special season.
Yeah.
But my goodness, like our track record with any games that could be considered a toss-up or any games that are on like national TV or anything like that, if you're not counting like the Thanksgiving Arkansas games, like we just do not show up. And that's exactly what happened in this game.
A&M offensively did to Missouri what Missouri was doing to like Buffalo and Murray State. A&M put up 512 yards of total offense, 276 passing, 236 rushing. And they sacked Brady Cook 6 times. Cook 13 of 31 for 186. Believe it or not, 6 yards per attempt. Nate Noel, 10 rushes for 30 yards. Carroll, 8 for 26. So couldn't even get anything going there. Not that they could even try to get back in the game that way.
Right.
But
yeah, Nick Scorton was probably better than we gave him credit for even last week, and we were talking him up. Like that play they showed a couple times where it was like a read option play.
Yeah.
I think Brady Cook maybe made the right read. Like Scorton was kind of crashing in, like he was going to go for the running back. Brady pulls the ball and starts to run, and Scorton like somehow reverses course and then tackles Brady Cook. So he basically covered the running back like read, and then still made the tackle on Brady. So that's
insane. Maybe like what he does best, honestly. And to even try that to his like to make him be the guy that you're reading there, it was just never going to work.
Yeah.
You mentioned like the not getting any pressure on Wigman and not even really trying to get very creative or aggressive with the pass rush was frustrating. Also, outside of the X's and O's, which we might return to, but it was bad. There's not much else to say. Outside of the X's and O's, there were some intangibles at play here in this game. First one that comes to mind being the reaction to Brady Cook talking about the stadium noise and what they've been doing in practice with the speakers and everything. We even said last week talking about that, like just offhand, like hope that doesn't get them fired up, or hope that doesn't get back to the 12th man.
Yeah, dude, that was so crazy. Like one of the most annoying things I've seen in a while, as far as like intangible press conference stuff, and like I'm not even frustrated with Brady Cook. He didn't say anything inflammatory in the slightest bit. He basically, if you didn't catch it last week, basically said Kyle Field's loud. We're simulating loud noise in practice by like having these really loud speakers close to us.
Yeah.
And if you like, this is hard to believe, but that might actually be louder than stadium noises because it's like right on you, and it's probably really like uncomfortable noise.
Yeah.
And stadium noise is like really distant. Everybody's like, far away from you.
Yeah.
So he was not making even a comment about Kyle Field specifically. He's never, that I can remember, I don't think he's ever played there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, A&M fan base gets really fired up about it. Their coaches were talking about it publicly, about the comment that Brady Cook made. So it, of course, becomes a huge deal.
He was just explaining their process for preparing for crowd noise.
Yeah. He was not trying to be inflammatory in the slightest bit, but it became that. So I guess that may be a lesson for future press conferences. Like, just don't even say anything borderline. Like, just be really conscious of what you're saying.
Yeah, and I guess credit to the A&M fan base and coaching staff for just taking that and spinning it into a little thing there.
They found a narrative, and they made it work for themselves.
The other intangible weird thing was, I think Theo Weiss himself posted it on Instagram or something.
Yeah.
A picture of something left in his hotel room in College Station, a blanket and a message, a little note from Texas A&M defensive back who is known as the Blanket, basically saying,
welcome to College Station.
Yeah,
there's like a Texas A&M blanket.
Yes, a Texas A&M blanket. So implying that Weiss is going to be covered up all game, not going to do anything. Well, Theo Weiss, in a nice little gamesmanship move, shows up to the stadium wearing the blanket.
Mm-hmm. And he posted on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he made it a public thing.
Yeah.
That this was my welcome to my hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure before the game, it was like the same night, the cornerback or this guy for Texas A&M's like said this wasn't me. And obviously he could be lying, but he might not be.
Right. So Weiss wears the blanket into the stadium. whatever. Let it fire you up. That sounds good. But the weird thing is, Coach Elko is asked about that in the post-game press conference, and he says, I don't know anything about that. You guys will have to ask Eli, implying that the Mizzou coaching staff set it all up. Now, we haven't heard anything either way. I haven't been like deep in the message boards or anything to investigate. I feel like we would have heard if there was something definitive that came out about that. But what a weird little thing there.
It's so weird.
Like what started as like a whatever harmless little, fairly like
kind of weird, even
Yeah.
if it really was like the Texas A&M guy doing that.
But,
Kind of a fun little
they're college athletes kind of going at each other in
trash talk
in a mostly harmless way. But then for Elko to be like a little, he almost took a like posture of being a little offended.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything about that. You better
Right.
ask Eli.
Exactly. Is that him being defensive, or is he truly just being like, no, this is some stupid stunt
Yeah.
that they pulled?
Oh,
Like no matter what happens, now it's weird.
Yeah.
Because like if Texas A&M really did do it, now they're being weird and defensive about it.
yes.
But if Coach Drinkwitz did it, I'm sorry, that's the strangest possible outcome here.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's really weird.
Yeah. I almost don't want to know the truth there because it worries me that was like some kind of weird stunt.
An inside job.
Yeah. But so some intangible off the field stuff made its way into the game, and it didn't take very long. I mean, even late in the game, Missouri's offense was still playing. I mean, they were down, I don't remember what the score was, 27-7. And Missouri's out there throwing the ball, like targeting Luther Burden on the sideline, like force feeding him the ball a little bit. Still couldn't get in the end zone at the end, had to kick a field goal.
Yeah. I actually made a note to talk about that like completely embarrassing end of game sequence.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, the game is over. I mean, there's less than a minute left in the game. We're down by 1 million points. Obviously, it's completely meaningless. We were trying so hard to get into the end zone to just make the score look better.
Yep.
And we could not do it.
Yeah.
We
all
had
the starters in the game.
all the starters in the game were like in the red zone for all of this time, and they couldn't do it. And then they kicked a field goal.
Yeah.
They kicked a field goal.
They gave it to Luther Burden on the end around right there, and he got tackled for like -4.
Yeah, that was such an incredibly perfect like cherry on the top of just an embarrassing sequence in a very embarrassing game.
And you might think like, now I'm not someone who, you're not about to hear me call for Brady Cook to be benched moving forward, but whatever the score was at that moment, under 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, I think that would have been an okay time to send Drew Pine out there
100%.
and maybe still throw it around a little bit or just hand the ball off. Nobody cares at that point.
Yeah, well, then you open yourself up to questions in the post game press conference, which is the last thing Coach Drinkwitz wants.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you're right, but that's what I would expect from most teams.
Yeah,
It
just
almost
not get
like,
our starter hurt.
Yeah, it almost seems like it almost gives me more of a insecure vibes that you put him back out there instead of being like, not our day, we're going to move on. And the fact that they were like desperately trying to get in the end zone.
Yes, we got to get something right here. Yeah.
Like trying to get Luther
And it
a
was
touchdown.
like extending the game, and like
Yes.
it was just like really choppy, and all the fans were getting restless and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just I can't believe I still had the game on at that point, honestly. Wanted to turn it off several different times and just stayed, kept watching.
41-10.
If just a few like kind of, let's try to wrap this up. Let's try to explain what happened here. Maybe I feel like the biggest thing, and something that I think Coach Drinkwitz tried to warn us about in SEC Media Days in July, some of the pregame stuff and fall camp and stuff like that. I kind of think Coach Drinkwitz tried to warn us that this team does not have the leadership that last year's team had. And, this team has talent, clearly. It's almost the same exact group as last year, minus some experienced seniors, leaders from last year. I even wore my Darius Robinson shirt because I miss him, and I miss the resolve and the grit and the leadership that he brought as, Cody Schrader. Chris Abrams-Drain, those type of guys. And I think the moment we found adversity this season, like that's really the first time that I should say that they pulled Vanderbilt out, but man, just the way we responded to adversity in this game was really, really concerning. And I don't know. I don't know what last year's team does, but I would like to think they would have responded better than this team did.
Yeah, and I mean, even like that fourth quarter drive, like, I mean, Luther Burden was out there catching passes, and then I saw him like spike the ball on the sideline, just like pissed off.
Yeah. I think going forward, it felt like just these too lofty of expectations, like this really, really fragile bubble popping is what it felt like.
For sure.
Just the expectations were just too much.
Yeah.
And this team was never going to be perfect. They were never going to run the table in most scenarios.
Yeah.
It obviously didn't happen. And so that really just fell down in a heaping pile whenever we kind of realized perfection is not going to be attained here. And so maybe that's your guiding light going forward is like, okay, the expectations are off our backs a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's try to play a little bit more freely. Maybe that explains some of the safe play at the beginning of the year too.
Yeah.
Maybe they can go out there and be like, all right, we got that loss out of the way. Let's just, try to have fun, try to make the best of the situation.
And that's how I'm trying to interpret Coach Drink saying the season starts now.
Yeah.
Because, maybe they can just kind of take a deep breath. I mean, we're going to know in a few weeks what happens here. But I was comparing, so I was looking back at the last two seasons because, like you said, this game so similar to the loss at Kansas State in week 2 in 2022. That game ended 40-12, so very close in score. And then it's actually a similar setup to the rest of the season. That was week 2, though. So bounced back with a win over Abilene Christian, which is like a easy win back in 2022. Then lost that overtime game to Auburn, who is the next.
That might have been one of the most brutal games I've ever seen in a season that didn't even matter that much.
So this year we get Auburn at home. Back in 2022, it went Auburn, Georgia, Florida. This year we got Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma. And so that 3-game stretch was 3 losses in 2022. And obviously we're going to talk about UMass a little bit, but that's basically Abilene Christian. That 3-game stretch that's coming up, starting with Auburn, is going to be the whole season, basically. Because you got a game at home that you should win, but who knows? After the Vanderbilt and A&M game, who knows what Missouri team is going to show up? I mean, the Missouri team that has shown up through 5 weeks, through 5 games, is going to be in a ugly slugfest with Auburn.
Yeah, there's not been a Missouri team that's shown up this year that makes me think that's an easy win.
Right. Now, if you look back at last year, play LSU, that's the first loss of the season, is in a shootout with LSU where you actually have the ball in the fourth quarter with a chance to go down and take the lead or tie it. And that was a heartbreaker, but it wasn't 42-10. It wasn't 41-12.
Yeah, they were in a position to win against a great team. Yeah.
And back in 2022, I mean, they still gave Georgia a game, lost by 4. Still, was right there. Should have beat Kentucky, then got blown out by Tennessee. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like it resets expectations a little bit, losing like this, and we basically got a tune-up game against UMass.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like the positive way to spin it is what we just said. Expectations are off. Let's just reset. Let's play more free. I think the scary thing is what you just said is this was supposed to be the stars aligning schedule-wise this season because, you've got a really, really tough game against Alabama on the road, and then you've got some toss-up games, A&M, Oklahoma, maybe Auburn's in that conversation, but you've got some very, very winnable toss-up games that are going to define the season, that are going to, that's going to make the season special. You've got a very realistic shot of going 11-1, being a shoe-in for the college football playoff, maybe even playing in the SEC championship game, whatever. The first opportunity is complete miss. And now you have to basically win out, except for Alabama, to even have a fighting chance of having a special season.
No longer control your own destiny. Obviously, you gotta have just one loss the rest of the way at most, and gonna need some help. But this past weekend, Missouri, me as a Missouri fan, I feel like I got some help mentally by getting to watch Alabama and Tennessee lose. And be like, well, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt.
That's got to be one of the biggest upsets ever.
Right.
I don't know.
It was in Nashville, so which I'm glad, because I don't know. That was a funny scene because it took Vanderbilt forever to get all the students and fans like out onto the field.
Just like one at a time going down a little staircase onto the field.
And then the goalpost ended up in the river. It was like going down Main Street or whatever, Broadway.
That's one of those things that I'm like, I wish I would have been in Nashville when that happened.
To be a part of something like that would be so fun.
Like being on Broadway and watching the goalpost just like go down, and just like joining that group of people and like watching them throw it in the river would be like an
even imagine
thing.
being a fan of that team, being a fan of Vanderbilt, like literally just suffering your entire life. But that moment would almost pay everything off. Just being a part of
Alabama was
like
number one.
Yes.
They were number one.
Crazy.
It would literally, it would have been incredible. But so that was fun. We did get to watch the end of that one. I didn't see the end of the Tennessee-Arkansas game, but
Tennessee looked bad.
So some pretty shocking outcomes on Saturday across the board.
It would have felt a lot better if the game was close, at least. So where are we going from here? We are Missouri drops to 21st in the AP poll and is punished with a trip to Amherst, Massachusetts, to take on the UMass Minutemen.
It's about as bad as it gets.
That is punishment. UMass, they were in the news like towards the beginning of the season because like that video went viral of a guy like touring their stadium or just like walking around on TikTok showing their stadium.
He just literally walked into their stadium on like a random weekday.
Like, this is where a college football team plays.
The Missouri's coming here. Like a top 10 team in the country is coming here later this year. Let me tell you a couple of things about UMass here, Cameron. First of all, I'd like to tell you their schedule so far this season.
I was looking at that,
They're very, very bad. I'll just preface it by saying that. They lost to Eastern Michigan 28-14. They lost to Toledo 38-23, which might actually be their most respectable outcome because Toledo is actually pretty solid.
I'm going to add something to your analysis here.
Go
this
ahead.
is proprietary information. Eastern Michigan 110 at SP+. Toledo 82.
Oh.
Go ahead.
They lost to Buffalo 34-3.
Buffalo 114.
And Missouri basically did that to Buffalo 34-3, something like that. They won their next game against a team called CCSU, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know what that is, but they won 35-31.
Central Connecticut.
Congratulations.
They almost lost.
Okay, and then they had a tough game with Miami, Ohio. They barely lost that 23-20.
107 in SP+.
And then, let's see, NIU, is that what I meant to write here? Okay.
Northern Illinois.
I made a little typo in handwritten notes. Northern Illinois, 34-20, they lost.
Northern Illinois 92 in SP+.
Yeah, so UMass is terrible. Probably the worst team we'll play this season. That's an FBS at least.
I was actually looking at their like team stat rankings. And I was like, oh, their defense is like top third of FBS in like passing yards per game, rushing yards per game allowed. So that's kind of interesting. Is their defense decent? No, they've played the offensive efficiency ratings for the teams that they've lost to 118, 105, 132, 107, 117.
So it's like the worst strength of schedule ever.
The worst offenses in football have been stacked up on Massachusetts' schedule.
Is Missouri better than those offenses?
Oh, well, according to SP Plus, we're still the 15th best offense in the country.
I don't think I believe that, but thanks, Bill.
We'll see how quickly that drops.
UMass McGurk Alumni Stadium seats 17,000.
Okay.
That's almost the exact same size we discovered as Missouri State Stadium here in Springfield, Missouri.
Wow.
Let me tell you how much it cost to build McGurk Alumni Stadium in 1965.
1965.
Yeah. It cost them $1.4 million.
Wow.
That would be like what? Like one concession stand now?
Yeah.
at
I was
Mizzou
thinking
Stadium?
like maybe like Coach Drinkwitz's house, probably. About that.
That's like for Coach Drinkwitz to coach like 2.5 games.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So they built their whole stadium for $1.4 million.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Yeah. Adjusted to inflation, that's like $14 million today or something.
Still a pretty pretty cheap stadium.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, do you want to know about their football team this year?
Yeah, tell me.
They are led by senior quarterback Tyson Pumachan. I don't know how to say it. He's in his 6th college season.
He's one of those.
Yes. Spent 3 years at Clemson. He committed to Clemson out of high school and then transferred to Georgia Tech.
That was like the Trevor Lawrence era almost, probably.
He might have been on the same team as Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. Yeah, they're 1-5. I mean, the quarterback also leads the team in rushing.
One of those teams.
Yes. And they're really not very good at it. Their offensive line is not very good. Missouri should be able to, and their defensive line is not very good. Missouri should be able to do whatever they want offensively. I want to see Brady Cook actually have an efficient game. So I gotta see
like a completion percentage north of like 65, 70%.
Yeah.
Yeah. 300 yards.
Gotta have like 9 yards per attempt or better.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be throwing it that much. We should see Drew Pine. Like,
yes, we should.
We've got to have a little bit of a return to normalcy with the offense here. Like,
yeah, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, honestly, that we're playing just a complete nobody. Yeah. Like following up the atrocity that was last week. I feel like Coach Drinkwitz's teams have bounced back really well in his time, whether that's in game or just over the course of a season. I just don't even know like that we can. I mean, I guess if the game was close next week, I guess we would be able to, take something away from that. That like this team is in serious trouble,
right?
But if they just do exactly what they're supposed to do, I'm not sure that. I guess we could maybe have hope that they've moved on.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a long time ago, but getting beat like that, there's still some of the same players around, but getting beat like that against Kansas State and then turning around 3 or 4 weeks later and playing Georgia the way they did that season and really giving them a test. I mean, there is precedent for a Drinkwitz team to get absolutely shellacked and then still wake up and show up for a big game later in the season.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, we're going to go, I know we're talking about UMass here, but Nick Saban was talking about how to deal with the aftermath of a big win versus a big loss on College Game Day last Saturday. Mm-hmm. And he was actually saying like one of the, I mean, in relevant terms, one of the most difficult things to deal with is a big win because now you're celebrating, you're trying to get the team back on track. They're going to rest on their laurels, all that stuff. He said, recuperating after a big loss is actually not as difficult as you might think, at least for a team that has any amount of resolve at all.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I think that makes a lot of sense. Hopefully that's the case here.
Yeah. I said in Discord earlier, hey, at least you get like basically 2 weeks to prep for Auburn.
Yeah, there you go.
And then somebody astutely pointed out we had 2 weeks to prep for Texas A&M.
Oh, good point.
Didn't really make much of a difference.
Yeah. Well, they were probably just looking ahead to that UMass game. That's probably why they didn't prepare for A&M.
Yeah. Anyway, like, I don't know. I'm done predicting like an offensive breakout in any way. I mean, the Burden and we still almost each hit 100 yards. I mean, it was like 70 something and 80 something.
Yeah, because literally nobody else did anything.
Yeah. What's going to happen against UMass though? It's going to be probably like the Buffalo game. Basically, I'm going to say Missouri wins 37-7.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's get up early, take the foot off the gas pedal, just run the clock out. Yeah, give me 38-6.
Okay. Oh man, I kind of wanted to predict a shutout there, but that'd be too good. 3 shutouts in a season. They could do it, but UMass a touch better offensively than Buffalo or Murray State.
They lost to Buffalo 34-3.
True. Buffalo's had an interesting year. After losing to Missouri, they went on to beat Northern Illinois.
Who beat Notre Dame.
Yeah. Who lost to A&M.
See, that's the thing about college football. It never makes sense. Nothing makes sense, and anyone can beat anyone on any day.
And Buffalo just lost to UConn 47-3. I don't know anything about UConn, but they're usually bad. Okay, so it's going to be a win. We'll reconvene next week and figure out what's going to happen with Auburn, and the rest of the season will start. But, man, that just... I'm going to reframe it. That was, like, demoralizing and embarrassing, but we got it out of the way. We're going to move on. And we'll see.
No other choice.
We'll see in 2 weeks what this team is actually capable of doing.
Yeah. Do you think this will be UMass will be the smallest stadium they've played in like 20 years?
It's got to be.
I mean, I can't even think of what other stadium would even come close. Vanderbilt would.
Yeah.
And
still, I feel like that's
probably still twice as big.
Yeah. So what's next? We're going to pick the rest of the SEC games. It's SEC Pick'em plus Nebraska.
No Nebraska.
SEC Pick'em minus Nebraska.
No Nebraska. Phew.
How'd we do last week?
Not great.
I picked Rutgers to beat Nebraska, I know.
That was silly.
They lost by 7.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
That's like a blowout.
I hear you loud and clear.
It's a blowout
Sounds
in Nebraska terms.
True.
Let's see. Last week, Kyle had 3 points. Cam and I had 4, and the guest pickers had 5.
I'm just going to say something here.
Yeah?
I'm just going to get this out of the way.
Okay.
I have let you guys bully me a little bit the last couple of weeks. You know what? I have been missing out on points.
Okay.
I've been picking games that I don't feel convicted in.
Okay.
And I'm not going to let that happen anymore.
Wow, putting your foot down?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, what's the total standings?
I have 30. Cam has 33. The guest pickers and Kyle have 34.
So Kyle's still winning.
Kyle's still tied for the lead and complaining that we're making him make bad picks.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, I was doing just fine thinking on my own accord.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm done
we'll
pleasing
see.
the people.
We'll see.
I'm done with entertainment.
We'll see.
Okay. Our guest picker this week is Devontae.
Hey, welcome in.
First game up is South Carolina at number 7 Alabama. Alabama is a 21.5-point favorite.
Probably a bounce back.
That's going to be a bounce back for the Bama boys.
Yeah,
Wow.
I kind of feel
Incredible alliteration there.
feel bad for South Carolina. They're probably going to get shellacked.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take Alabama.
Alabama all around.
Remember, didn't South Carolina just have like one random game that they played amazing in?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who it was against.
It wasn't last week.
No. It confused everybody.
No,
I'll find it.
I don't. Yeah.
I'll find it.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, don't even worry about it.
Next up, old Big 12 matchup. Number 1, Texas at number 18, Oklahoma.
Red River rivalry.
How about that?
Texas is a 14.5-point favorite.
It's at Oklahoma.
It's at Oklahoma, and this is the Texas team that's not going to make the playoff. Right?
Says
Kyle?
who?
Now,
He's trying to use my own words against me. Look at this. Look at these head games.
yeah, you made it too easy. Texas, like a couple of weeks ago, we were thinking like, Ole Miss might just be the best team in college football. Maybe a little under the radar. They get upset. Last week, like, okay, maybe it's actually Tennessee. They get upset. Now it's clearly Texas. Texas, without a doubt, the best team in college football, right?
Couldn't agree more.
So that is the kiss of death.
Yeah, but those other teams were kind of like underrated.
Yeah?
Texas isn't underrated.
No?
Who have they beaten?
True.
I don't like that I'm liking this argument.
University of Louisiana Monroe.
Seriously.
You guys pick first.
Okay, I'll take Texas.
They're 1-0 in SEC play. They've only played Mississippi State. They beat fraudulent Michigan. I'll take Texas.
Devontae takes Texas.
Good arguments. I take Texas.
I'll take Oklahoma.
Wow.
I'll trade. I'll switch.
All right.
I want the points. And that's going to make the narrative even better. First of all, we need
backup.
You want the points, not to be confused with picking against the spread.
True. I want that extra upset point. We need Texas to lose because we need all the SEC teams to lose like 3 times.
Yeah, we want Oklahoma to win because we're playing them in like 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
I don't want Oklahoma to win. You know what I mean?
I do. I'm picking them. Oklahoma all the way.
Okay, then. This was like, if Oklahoma wins, you just
I missed my opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
you big-brained Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
Make him think that we're going to try and force him to pick Oklahoma, so he picks Texas, and then you pick Oklahoma.
Exactly.
Incredible. Anyway.
Getting finessed all over the place.
Next up, Mississippi State at number 5, Georgia. Georgia is a 33.5-point favorite.
I'm going to take the Georgia Bulldogs.
I'll take Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia all around. Next up is Florida at number 8, Tennessee. Tennessee is a 15.5-point favorite.
They looked legitimately bad against Arkansas. Arkansas did everything they could to lose that game, and Tennessee was like, no, actually, we'll lose it.
Don't worry about it. We'll lose.
Yes. I'll take Tennessee.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take Tennessee, but Florida's, they've been making me look bad the last couple weeks.
True.
Tennessee all around.
Picking up against them, and
Billy Napier just holding on for dear
just
life.
holding on.
Yeah.
Another ranked matchup. Ole Miss, number 9 Ole Miss at number 13 LSU. Ole Miss is a 3.5-point favorite. Kyle kind of likes LSU, don't you, Kyle?
I do. I'm going to actually go LSU here.
Yeah, I'll go LSU.
I'm saying Ole Miss big.
Wow. They're going to return to their former glory.
Yeah. LSU a bit fraudulent.
Devontae picks Ole Miss.
Okay.
2v2.
I like that. I'm in good company there.
And then last up, the number 1 defeating Vanderbilt Commodores. Commodores?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. C.
Mr. C himself against Kentucky. Kentucky is a 13.5-point favorite.
Oh.
It was Kentucky that South Carolina looked good against
Oh, yeah.
early, but then Kentucky beat Ole Miss.
And they almost beat Georgia
Yeah.
like a week before that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And what's this game now?
Now this is a weird
Vanderbilt at Kentucky. Kentucky's 13.5-point favorite.
That line.
That is
There's
weird.
okay. Kentucky can't even score 13 points.
No.
They'll probably score 12 and win by 2
Yeah.
or something, but
You're taking Kentucky
no.
12-10?
I'm taking Vanderbilt.
Wow.
I'll take Vanderbilt.
All right, I'll take Kentucky. Guest pickers take Vanderbilt.
Wow.
Goodness.
Kentucky Island over there.
The favorite by like 14 points or whatever you said
Yeah.
is on an island.
Yeah. And, people just want the Vanderbilt story. People
We want it.
want Vanderbilt to be good.
They do, but
The
you know
best
what
in
they
the
say?
country.
It's really hard to bounce back after a big win.
True.
And anyway, that's the end of our segment.
No changing. The music just cut off.
Let me make you all rethink your decisions, and then we're done. Anything else? I hope we could brighten your day a little bit after that awful week of feels like the sky was falling for a little bit. Coach Rink said the sky's not falling. Nobody's transferring yet. Nobody's decommitting yet. Let's save that for later.
Yes, please.
We
We'll have plenty of time to speculate on that stuff.
Let's enjoy a football game this weekend. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters: Britt Treese, Ryan Demore, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker, Daddy JD, Tim Keens, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Raffalo, Brandon Hanks, Matthew Tilley, Louis Hernandez, Joshua Jacobson, Devontae. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you. And we love you. You can find this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod. And you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.bigcartel.com.
Thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next week. After win.